Hello, everybody. Hi. Don't be freaked out by the coat. It's only because I'm wearing a t-shirt, but I'm wearing a t-shirt because of, the whole Jobs thing. Steve Jobs. I don't know if you've heard of him. We'll be talking a bit about him today. Mostly we'll be talking about him today. That's pretty much what we're doing. Anyway, this is all very casual. It will be less casual once we actually start. Just going to give it another minute. There was actually a note that I wanted to make here, so if you will pardon me. Yeah. Right. Okay. How's everybody doing? Don't bother answering because I can't hear you. You can type in your answer, but I'm going to get started in a second. But stick around because after the show, we'll chat. This might be one of those things where we all chat for a tiny bit longer. I don't know. Hey, Don is here. I don't know. Is it Don or Dow? I don't have my glasses on. Dow. I'm sorry. Finally made it to the live. Congratulations. I'm glad you're here. I also made it to the live, as did some other people, right? Let's just go ahead and get going. You want to, and then we'll get into other stuff later. Thinking about Steve Jobs and thinking about something that Steve Jobs did. It is Monday, the 5th of October, 2020. I'm Ken Ray, and this is macOS Ken Live. I said my name before the thing. I don't mean to do that because now I'm going to be like, hi, I'm still Ken Ray. Thank you very much for joining us. Happy Monday, everybody. Is it one of those? A happy one, I mean? I know it's Monday. I got a case of them. Second half of the show, we're going to talk about something in particular that Steve Jobs did. And we're going to talk about a couple of things in particular. One that we know he did, one that I've heard he did. Because, of course, we are, 9 years now since Steve Jobs passed away, which is why we're spending a good bit of today thinking about the stuff he did and ways in which he changed the world. In fact, let's go ahead and get straight into that. This is not going to be an exhaustive, here's everything Steve Jobs did, here's how old he was, here are all the people who influenced whatever. This is just me, just like thinking about the ripples that this guy made in popular culture, let's say, and in smaller ways as well. Of course, we all know April 1st, 1976, I believe. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne get together in a garage, and they found Apple Computer, right? Three guys there. Ronald Wayne was considered the adult in the room, and I believe it was also because he had a van, if memory serves. So they cut him in, and then he decided he wanted out. So they sold him back his share of the company. And then every few years, somebody is really kind to Ronald Wayne, and they write an article about how much he would be worth today if he had held on to 1/3 of his company. Got to meet him at a party once. Did not want to meet him at all. Not because I didn't want to meet him, but because I was embarrassed. I mean, everybody wants everybody to meet him because, hey, look, here's the guy who was there. Here's what's great, though. He's actually really nice and he's really chill about the whole thing. I, of course, did not bring up what a billionaire he could have been, but he just he knows why people are introducing him. And so he starts talking about, some of that time there, what the early days were like, stuff that he's done since then. I believe they were actually working on the documentary about him at the time. It was at Macworld that I ran into him, or a party at Macworld. Anyway, incredibly nice guy. And so that was the thing that happened. Which is the bigger miracle that happened in the garage? Which is the bigger miracle that happened between Woz and Jobs? I think you could argue that there wasn't a bigger miracle of the two. Woz obviously was the technologist. Woz was the guy who designed the computer. Woz was the guy who built the computer. Steve Jobs was the guy who said, don't give that away, sell it. And that's kind of terrible. If you think about it, that's kind of horrible. At the same time, we wouldn't be living in the world that we are living in today if computers had stayed as sort of the purview of the hobbyist, I think. Personally, I think it's kind of terrible on a personal level. As far as the rest of the world goes, it's a much bigger and better thing. The next thing that I would point to is the graphical user interface. Because here's the thing: I had access to computers before a Mac, but they nothing to me. Like, I still could not tell you when I was using a computer how it was you actually ran a program, how it was that you ran a program on a computer. I know that my stepfather bought some sort of Wintel something or other, ran Windows. No, it didn't even run Windows. I don't think it ever ran Windows. It may have eventually run Windows 3.1, but basically had a stack of disks that, you'd run a C prompt and you'd call up the directory and blah, blah, blah. I think that happened after I left the house, so I never really quite, grokked what you were supposed to do with that thing. I will say, though, neither did my brother or sister, and they grew up in the house with that computer. That was theoretically the computer that they were supposed to use, but the whole thing was, what's the word I'm looking for? Inaccessible to them and to my mom and to my stepfather. It was a waste of money, really. Now, he saved money by not buying a Mac, but the thing is, I could tell you, as I've told you before, I'm sure on Mac OS Ken and other places, as I tried to tell him as well, but he was never gonna listen to me on anything. When you sat down to a Mac, you understood what you were supposed to do. You didn't have to learn how to navigate a Mac. If you could point and you could click, you could do that thing. I remember the first time I sat down at a Mac, I drew a picture in Mac Paint. I had never done anything creative on a computer before, and I had had access to a couple because it was just there. It got out of your way, which I'm fairly certain is something that Jobs probably said at some point. So yeah, I mean, no, he didn't invent the graphical user interface, but he saw it and thought there was, a place for it in what would become modern computing, that everybody would get that it wasn't just ridiculous. Here's the thing that and for people who can't see this, what I'm wearing today, I don't normally wear a jacket. What I'm wearing today, though, is I'm wearing a T-shirt because it's an Incredibles T-shirt, which of course is a Pixar movie, and it's got a place for the little mic pin from Monsters Inc. and Monsters University. Because the next thing that's kind of amazing that he did was he bought a division of Lucasfilm that eventually became Pixar. And this is one of the ripples that I don't know that we really think about how big of a ripple this is. But Jobs buys this thing. I think it was Steve Jobs. I'm sorry, Icon Steve Jobs, the greatest second act in the history of business, tells an excellent play-by-play of how it is that he kept Pixar a going thing, including the number of times that he was like, "I got to be done with this because I'm just throwing good money after bad. I just keep throwing good money after bad on this." But of course, he stuck with it, and eventually they partnered to release Toy Story, and then all the movies that came after that. Got in a bit of a fight with Michael Eisner in 2004 or 5. I can't remember which, but he got in a fight with Michael Eisner and said he would never work with Disney again. That was it. He was done with them. He would find somebody else to distribute Pixar films. Something I was reading earlier today said that it was actually Roy Disney who helped to force Eisner out because he felt like losing the relationship with Pixar was going to be one of the worst things that could happen to Disney at the time. So Eisner gets forced out. Bob Iger comes in. Of course, late 2005, Bob Iger is on stage at the San Jose Theater in San Jose, shaking hands with Steve Jobs and announcing that the Pixar shorts and count them, 4 television shows from ABC are going to be available on iTunes, because that was also the same day that they introduced the video iPod. Because Steve Jobs, while he had said nobody is ever going to watch video on something this small, he of course knew that he had been walking around watching video on something that small and that people were going to love it, right? And then his dealings again with Iger end up with him becoming the largest shareholder in Disney, because rather than keep making piecemeal deals and keep negotiating, Disney just decided to buy it. So they bought it in a stock deal that gave Jobs $7.4 billion worth of Disney, I believe, making him the single largest shareholder, bigger than Disney survivors, bigger than Michael Eisner. I want to say he owned 7% of Disney when that deal closed. Eisner owned 1.9%. Roy Disney owned 1%, I believe, of Disney. I've heard stories about the stuff that he did when he came in, including a lot of the crappy direct-to-DVD sequels or like threequels or whatever of actually good Disney movies. I've heard it said that Jobs was the one that put a stop to that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But already you've got, quote, Disney magic, in quote, back because of the investment that Jobs made in this little offshoot of LucasArts. Is it LucasArts? I can't remember. Lucasfilm, excuse me, or LucasArts, which he then, of course, wrote into owning part of Disney. Now, is that what gives Disney the money and the cachet to buy Marvel? Is that what gives Disney the money and the cachet to buy Star Wars? I can't answer that. But if Iger hadn't gone ahead and made friends with Disney again, would Disney have done as well? Could Pixar have gone to a Universal? Could Pixar have gone to a Warner Brothers? Could Pixar have gone other places and become, this giant thing? It's a ripple. And you don't really think about, how those ripples play out, I don't think. But here's the thing. We just talked about something that's defining at least pop culture in Western civilization for quite a while to come. And we haven't even gotten to this yet. I want to say Jobs said in 2006, what do we know about telephony? Of course, he was lying because he always did that. But I want to say Jobs said in 2006, what do we know about phones? And of course, in January of 2007, he goes up on stage and he introduces, what is it? An iPod, an internet-connected device. I can't remember what the third thing was, but he basically sat there and did that chant, and he introduced iPhone, which we wouldn't see again for 6 months. There would be talk of it, of course. I want to say no. Stephen Colbert actually came out on stage either at the Oscars or the Emmys or the Grammys or something with an iPad, not with an iPhone. But you look at the iPhone, and even if you don't want to talk about what a big influence the iPhone is, the iPhone gives the go-ahead for Android. It doesn't actually give the go-ahead for Android. It was actually a sticking point with Steve Jobs that they went ahead and did Android, basically horking a lot of what the iPhone had done. It's kind of funny, actually, when a lot of Android people will say, oh, the iPhone's just stealing features from Android. Well, see also the Android operating system, at least the idea for it. And of course, the iPhone does lead, as I said a moment ago, to the iPad, which I personally don't find incredibly useful. I have an iPad. I enjoy using my iPad. I've used it more for this live thing that I do on YouTube than I've ever used it before. They're fine, but it took this thing that was like, super science fiction. It took this thing that was all over the place in 2001: A Space Odyssey, the kind of thing that you saw indicated in Star Trek, because of course people would walk up to Kirk and have him sign something. You never saw the thing that he was signing, but it was supposed to be, I assume anyway, a computer, later called a pad in the 1987 TNG and Star Trek iterations on. He took this thing out of science fiction and put it in your hand. Mostly I watch YouTube and movies on it. But I have used it to sign PDFs and to edit things as well. I mean, it is a functional computer, and it's this thing, it's a piece of glass that you walk around with, and through it, you can see the world. So that happened. And none of that's particularly profound. It's just amazing to think about all the things that grew from this one guy doing that, right? I don't know. I'm horrified sometimes by the amount of Disney there is in my life. Not horrified, but it's because, this is my coffee mug. This is one of my favorite mugs. That's for the people who watch in a few minutes. And I'm like, seriously, every day. And this t-shirt is one of my favorite t-shirts. It's got a hole in the back of it. Kind of sad. Just found out. You know why it's got a hole in the back of it? Because I've worn it about once a week for about 5 years. The guy's influence just can't be reckoned with. I think it's impossible to know how big his influence has been and what the world would be like without. And today seems like a decent day to think about that. And tomorrow we'll go back and think about, all the other crap that we spend our time thinking about. I want to talk about one specific thing he did in just a moment. But first, I do have a favor to ask of you. This YouTube thing, I don't know. You tell me. The best way you can tell me is to hit like and hit subscribe. If you're here and you're watching this, or if you're seeing this some other time and you're not subscribed, I would love it if you would and if you did. And part of that's because of the tiny little shine to the ego that one gets, and also, monetization down the road, maybe. And also just, we stick around after these and have a conversation, and I thoroughly enjoy those conversations. And so the more people are subscribed, the more YouTube promotes it, the more people get to come and have more of those conversations with us. So that is my request to you today. If you could hit like, if you could hit subscribe, and do that for any creator that you like. Honestly, if there's anybody that you watch 3 or 4 of their videos, hit like and subscribe on their stuff too, because we're just all out here trying something. And a lot of those are to be encouraged. It's worth noting, by the way, that Tim Cook went to Twitter today. Well, there are 2 things that are worth noting. First of all, Tim Cook went to Twitter today to mark the passing of Steve Jobs. A great soul never dies. It brings us together again and again, said Maya Angelou. You're always with us, Steve. Your memory connects and inspires us every day, so said Tim Cook. Honestly, what I found interesting was the front page of Apple, still selling Apple Watches, still selling iPads. Front page of Apple was not turned over to the passing of Steve Jobs today. I don't remember if it was last year or not, but I went there honestly expecting to see a tasteful black and white photo, some quote by Jobs, or some quote, like him, or, honoring him or something like that. Not today. All right. I said I want to talk about the one thing that Steve Jobs did, or one thing that Steve Jobs did. I heard a story that when Steve Jobs went for his liver transplant in Memphis, he knew he was going to be there for a while, recuperating, what have you. And, he bought a house. He could afford it. He had Disney stock. He had Apple stock. He had, money. He bought a house. The story that I heard from somebody, and it was an email that I have lost now, it was somebody who said that they were associated with the place where Steve Jobs had actually had his transplant. That when Steve Jobs was done, when it was time for him to go back to California, when he was no longer under the care of the doctors in Memphis, when he was no longer going to be staying there and going back to that hospital, he donated that house to the hospital. Never could get proof on that. And I don't doubt it. Honestly, the reason I wanted to find proof on it was because I didn't want the person who told me to get in trouble, because they said, don't tell anybody. Well, it's been 9 years now. No, wait. The transplant was in 2009. Yeah, we found out about it in 2009. So I heard about that in 2009. It's been 11 years now. I no longer have that email. I can't identify that person. So that person's secret dies with me, at least as far as who they were and what they did. Actually, it doesn't die with me. The secret's gone because I can't remember who it was. Some guy, maybe some gal. I don't even remember. It's kind of a neat thing that Steve Jobs did, and it was something he could afford to do. That's not the thing I wanted to tell you about, though. The thing I wanted to tell you about was what he did after he got his liver transplant. This is from a Mac Daily News article, 19th of March, 2010. Saying a liver transplant saved his life, Apple CEO Steve Jobs convinced California lawmakers to draft organ donation legislation unveiled at Stanford's Lucile Packard Children's Hospital Friday morning. So that would have been, probably my birthday, the 16th of March, I'm guessing. That bill required Californians who are applying for or renewing their driver's license to affirmly accept or decline becoming a donor. They didn't have to become a donor. They just had to say whether or not they would be. Because before that, what happened was you got your driver's license and they gave you a little sticker. And if you wanted to be a donor, you put that sticker on there yourself. You might take time to think about it. You might try to decide. Basically, they said, if you want to get a driver's license, you just have to answer this question. Don't have to answer yes, but you have to answer. And I think you could actually go back and change it later if you decided to. Reason this came about was because Steve Jobs bumped into Maria Shriver, who at the time was the First Lady of California, bumped into her at a party and started talking about what had happened and what he thought people should do. The reason he ended up in Memphis is because there weren't enough livers in California. And so he didn't go to Memphis and wait. Rather, he knew that he had a jet that could get him to Memphis in 4 hours. And so he signed up for that list there. That's what his doctors at Stanford suggested he do, that he sign up for the list there because he could get there. And it was easier to get a liver there. Not in a nefarious way. It's just there weren't as many people waiting as there were in California. And then he realized, I mean, he knew this because we should all know this, but he realized that, not everybody has a jet. Jobs said there were not enough livers in California to go around. I was advised by my Stanford doctors to enroll on the list in a Memphis hospital because it was more favorable to get a liver there. I was fortunate, he said, because he had the ability to fly across the country in the 4-hour window. In the 4-hour window, needed to transplant a healthy organ. Last year, so this would have been 2009, last year, 400 other Californians died waiting. I could have died. He called the current system an obscure process, with no one asking the simple question, will you donate your organs? Of his current health, he, of course, said he was fine, because at the time he was. It was 2005. He would pass away, 2010, excuse me, he would pass away a year and a half later. So Steve Jobs was in a life-threatening situation and said, I should try to make this better for everybody. No idea why I wanted to bring that up today. And I think with that, we're about done. I know, no news of the day, but I don't spend a lot of time every year when Steve Jobs, the anniversary of his passing comes up. I don't really talk about it that much because I don't want to say why dwell, but mine is a news show. Particularly today. How many people are going to die today and we're not going to know their names because they didn't invent the iPhone, because they didn't start Apple, because they didn't buy Pixar, because they didn't steer Disney? Everybody makes ripples. We don't always know how far they go. We don't always know how they intersect, but everybody does. Which I guess is why I wanted to talk about that today. In the meantime, we got other stuff to talk about. Tomorrow, we have In a Few Minutes with Brian Chaffin. I don't remember what we talked about, but you can find out easily. We also, of course, have macOS Ken coming up later this week. There's the checklist. And then, you know what? We're going to get back here and do this again tomorrow, too. So 3:30 on the West Coast, 6:30 on the East Coast, other times, other places. And if you don't catch it live, like I say, subscribe because you can always check it out later. There are now 11. Count them. 11 of these. Don't bother counting them. Trust me. There are 11. Be here for number 12, won't you? Talk to you soon. And we're clear. Hi, everybody. All right, who's saying what? The secret dies tonight. Wow, you guys are waiting me out. Where were you when you heard he passed? Frank says he was at a coffee shop. I was actually sitting on my couch getting ready for macOS Ken Live. So I was pretty much doing what I spend my whole life doing, working, for my next show or on my next show. What about you, Casey? Oh, thanks, Derek. While we're waiting for Casey's answer, Derek says he just wanted to let me know and make his day better. Hashtag ripples. Not hashtag, I'm sorry, /ripples. That's kind of cool. Casey was on his Mac. Yeah. I don't remember where we were on his health at that point. I know that Tim Cook had already taken over as CEO on the 24th of August, but I don't think we were all, no, that's not true. iPhone 4S had just been introduced the day before, and they kept cutting to that empty chair where Steve Jobs should have been sitting. That was kind of tough. You knew something was coming. You didn't know it was coming tomorrow. Yeah. Ripples. Seriously, you have no idea. That's the thing, though. Derek, thank you very much. But you have no idea what ripples there are in your life, too, right? None of us do. So there you go. I'm all zen up in here. I got to go because it's hot under that light. And I've also got to take off my jacket because it's hot under my jacket. Yeah, Frank says he doesn't remember thinking it would be at any moment. I do remember, so I had a friend who was at WWDC that year. That's the other thing. So that was 2011, right? I don't remember what was announced at WWDC. I do know that he presented. I had a bunch of friends say he actually looked bad. And then that night, he went to the Cupertino Town Council to suggest, I forgot about that. He completely remade the face of Cupertino. That was the other thing, because of course now they have Apple Park. It's kind of hard to celebrate that one because you can't go there unless you work there. You can go outside there. And what's funny is you can actually see it from all over, because I did walk around it one day a couple of years ago. I think I was in the area for about 4 hours, maybe. The visitor center is great, and they have a little AR, VR thing where you can hold up an iPad and see what Apple Park looks like, but you can't see Apple Park. You can see the top of it from over the hedge, but that's it. But he did that as well, and that's going to be there forever. Civilization may fall, and 1,000 years from now, people will come up and be like, "Wow, what's this giant donut doing here?" Now, I'm glad that part didn't make the actual show. Right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for staying. Do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, tell friends. That's the other thing. I should have said that. Tell friends if you would. Take care, Mr. Petrie. No, by the way, we have hung out physically twice. You asked the other day if that was the only time we had met. We physically hung out twice, two Macworlds. That first one, and then the second one. Yeah, really. I'll tell you about it sometime. Thank you, Derek. It's very kind. Now you're going to make me verklempt. Right. I'm out. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.